Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ad Age's TV Pivot. I'm Janine Poggi, Assistant Managing Editor here at Ad Age. Thanks so much for tuning in. So you watched the upfronts last week, and now it's time to break it all down and hear from what it means for you, the advertisers. Over the course of the next 2 days, we will hear from the heads of ad sales from some of the major media behemoths who will dive deeper into just how their new programming, streaming platforms, and targeting products will translate into new opportunities for marketers. We will chat with innovative brands and agency leaders on how they are approaching the TV marketplace during this year's ad haggle. And we will address the real importance in investing in BIPOC-owned media companies and in content that authentically speaks to diverse audiences. Coming off a year of so much uncertainty, this year's upfront deal making is certainly poised to at least have a little bit more predictability. We are seeing key categories like movie studios and travel, which sat out of negotiations last year, come back in full force. But with linear TV ratings starting to erode, brands will need to look to streaming and digital platforms in order to place all of their ad dollars. Perhaps one of the biggest questions going into negotiations is how much money will shift from linear TV into streaming. During the next 2 days, we will look to get a better picture on that one, as well as advancements in addressable advertising, progress around metrics and measurement, and what flexibility will look like in 2021. But before we get to all of that, I'd like to thank our co-presenting sponsors. We have Cadent, LG Ads, LiveRamp, Methodify by Zelvinia, and Steelhouse, as well as our supporting sponsor, Talkwalker. Kicking things off is NBCUniversal. It's a big year for the Peacock, which will be out in the marketplace with 2 Olympics and the Super Bowl, not to mention going into year 2 of their streaming platform. Joining me now is Mark Marshall and Laura Molin, Presidents of Advertising Sales and Partnerships. Hi, Mark. Hi, Laura.
How are you, Jeannie?
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So we are already hearing the marketplace is moving. Things are in full force, a lot different than perhaps what was happening last year. How are you navigating the demand, and which we have heard that is at higher levels than even 2019 and 2020?
This is certainly a very exciting time. As you mentioned on the onset, that so many categories are coming back. There are new categories, and it really is an exciting time. And at NBCUniversal, we started a couple of years back bringing one platform to the marketplace. We've added so much in terms of streaming and digital video. And so we are excited that we have a full complement of impressions across the board to reach consumers wherever they are to bring to the marketplace this year. Mark, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, Laura, you're exactly right. We spend so much time focusing on the categories and what we anticipate each category will look like. We really saw 5 key categories: pharma, tech, CPG, entertainment, and autos. Each of those adding about $1 billion into the marketplace. You also look at, VAB did a great study last year. Even in the pandemic that we were in 2020. I think there were 283 new advertisers that came into television. So to your point, Jeannie, it absolutely is going to look like a much different year this year than the one we experienced last year or even any year prior.
And with demand where it is, and as I mentioned at the beginning, ratings continuing to erode, what does that mean for where dollars need to shift to, how the streaming marketplace will step in this year?
Well, we are seeing consumption at about 70-30 linear to streaming. And we are predicting that in a couple of years, it will be 50-50. And marketers, because they want to reach consumers wherever they are leaning into streaming in a really meaningful way, especially since streaming tends to reach the younger consumer. And there is so much great content available, whether it's on Peacock or our One App product. So we're seeing that there will be more demand in that marketplace.
How are the opportunities on Peacock evolving? We're going into year 2. What new opportunities are there for advertisers in the marketplace?
It's a great question. We're so excited to be bringing a new ad this year to the marketplace called Spotlight. And Spotlight allows a marketer to have the scale and reach of broadcast linear in a given moment. So what I mean by that is if you're looking to reach consumers on a Thursday night during prime time, you can use Peacock and the Spotlight ad to reach whoever is watching TV through Peacock at a given time. We're also really leaning into, continuing with all of our innovative ad formats. And what we're seeing is that Peacock is growing in reach, and we project that by the fall, when we've now opened up Peacock, I should have mentioned that earlier, we're getting out of our launch period, and so we're opening up Peacock to the entire marketplace in this upfront starting in the fall. And when you look at the reach, we're expecting at that time that it's going to be on par with broadcast linear reach, which so many marketers are looking for to get that scale and reach. So and then when you add it together with everything else we have at NBCUniversal, it just makes Peacock such a powerful offering. We're excited for the Olympics this summer to really take Peacock to the next level. We were supposed to launch with Peacock last summer with the Olympics. The pandemic stopped that, but it certainly helped, I think, with streamers across the board in time spent viewing, in getting consumers to download the app. And now we expect that we're going to take Peacock to the next level with the Olympics coming this summer.
And I definitely want to spend a little bit of time talking about the Olympics in a minute, but I want to go back to the Spotlight ad, which I find really interesting because it almost feels like slightly counterintuitive to the things that advertisers originally were thinking about streaming for, being really targeted and very specific in the audience they're reaching. But this is sort of looking to be and solve, the way a broadcast campaign would run and have a broad reach. Can you talk about, is there a shift and sort of how you're thinking about advertising and streaming? Is it replicating a little bit more the reasons you would go to broadcast for that broad reach?
So we asked our launch partners, both the agencies and the clients, to sit on our Peacock Council and really help evolve the product based on their needs. And the Spotlight ad actually came from feedback from our partners of something else that they wanted to have in streaming. And so we did so many different focus groups with them, and we kept testing different things, and this kept coming back as something that they really wanted to see in streaming. So we fast tracked the creation of this product to make sure that it would be ready for the fall because it did have such demand from our partners.
I know another area of focus for NBCU has been shoppable advertising, especially over the past year where we're seeing such a drive in e-commerce. Can you talk about any advancements in that area? And if you're seeing consumer behavior follow, do people want to buy products directly, from the TV while they're watching content, or like videos on Instagram, and kind of what you're thinking about there?
So I'll just start with, because I know Mark probably can give some examples of things that we're doing with clients, but I will start with the fact that consumers, even through COVID, you had to use your phone when you went to a restaurant to get a menu, right? So this kind of technology is becoming second nature to consumers. So when they see that code up on the screen, it's just natural for a consumer now to just hold up their phone to it and see what they get. And we are seeing great results for the marketers that we are working with to drive sales to their brands or even awareness, downloading an app. And so there are so many different ways that you can use Shoppable to advance your KPIs. And we are just going to keep investing in this technology. We started in COVID offering it to marketers because we knew that they had to move to an e-commerce kind of business. And so we were partnering with them. They were seeing how it was working. And now we are advancing. You can use it across the board. Mark, I don't know if you want to share any examples of recent things that we've done.
Yeah, it was not that there was a lot of positive that came out of the pandemic, but there was some testing and learning that actually allowed us to think about things differently. And part of it started with Jimmy Fallon, where we were actually doing things with Jimmy Fallon and The Tonight Show, where we were actually raising money for different groups. And we were doing that with our QR and shoppable codes, which then led us to start to experiment in different ways. And last week, we just did our partnership with Volkswagen, with VW, that we rolled out, where you actually had Retta from Good Girls actually in a hologram standing in your living room, taking you through the new ID4 and changing colors of the car actually in your living room. It's a really great experience. And I think you're going to see more of that experiential elements as we continue on with this, as advertisers want to get that phone in the hands that we know they can transact instantly on top of that.
I'm Janine Poggi, and I am here with Mark Marshall and Laura Molen, presidents of advertising sales and partnerships at NBCUniversal. I want to shift gears and get into the Olympics. Obviously, Laura, as you mentioned, due to COVID, that was pushed back to this summer. How are you currently navigating, any of the uncertainties around the game? And what is the state of Olympic advertising? You also have the Winter Olympics in February, so a lot of inventory certainly to sell. Mark, maybe can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're very excited, and it's not a question in Tokyo if the Olympics are happening; it's how they're happening. And the IOC has been very prescriptive of the rule book and who will be there and what the protocols will be. It'll have a little bit of a different feel, obviously, but at the same time, we're going to have the games, the advertiser interest. We've already booked more advertisers than we had in last year's games. We have a demand that has exceeded capacity overall around the games. And as we move towards Beijing, you also have this great setup for the whole upfront that you think about. You're going to have the Tokyo games in July and August, which will lead right into our fall schedule. And then you're going to have the winter games that will be in February, which will lead right to our mid-season. So we're using it as a great platform, as Laura talked about, for not only Peacock, but all of our linear channels overall.
Is it creating different opportunities, or is there any sort of hurdles for brands for like on the ground marketing and how you guys are thinking about that?
Yeah, we've had many conversations with some of our marketing partners who are involved, and on the ground, it's a little bit of a different situation than on air. I think on air, sitting in our living rooms, it probably won't feel a whole lot different. But in terms of activations, it's absolutely presenting some challenges for some of the advertisers that would normally be activating locally there. But from the ad marketplace, we haven't had that experience as the local issue is.
And NBC will also air the Super Bowl next year. So this year we saw that Super Bowl was had a bunch of first-time advertisers, and then you had some of the usual suspects sort of sitting out of the game. With this trend in mind, Mark, how are you approaching Super Bowl marketplace in 2022?
The Super Bowl marketplace is already far ahead of where we've ever seen it. The last time we had the game was in 2018, and so there is a whole lot more demand this year. I think part of it is, the world opening back up. I think you also looked at it that the Super Bowl's audience held up overall. And I think there's also a real excitement of being able to have, in the middle of the Olympics, you're going to have a huge promotional platform and have the Super Bowl sitting right in between the 2 weeks of the Olympics, which we have not had before. So I think there's an excitement around taking advantage of this unique opportunity.
Are you seeing the same similar kind of strength and demand in the NFL marketplace?
Absolutely. Sunday Night Football continues to be the number one show in primetime for a decade now. So if you think about it, we're going to really go July all the way through Sunday Night Football into Olympics and Super Bowl, that the biggest events will be on NBC over that period of time.
So for anyone who tuned into NBC's virtual presentation last week, it was certainly filled with celebrities and very star-studded. Can you talk about how you are bringing your talent to brands in a different way this year?
All right, I'll start up on that one, and Laura jump in, obviously, on the side. We're absolutely seeing this transition as the marketplace becomes disaggregated, and it's harder to find areas where you can really stand out. We're starting to see advertisers lean in very heavily around IP that they want to associate with the right show at the right time. And we're starting to have more requests around how do we engage our on-air talent to be part of their campaigns, because we're seeing when you deliver that ad with the contextual relevancy of the show that's being watched, it not only just makes your ad work harder for that one piece of creative, but actually makes your brand a halo effect that's created by that contextual relevancy overall. So we're absolutely seeing more and more advertisers leaning into that piece of it.
Laura, did you have
I think
anything?
another piece that I would add is that when you associate, like Mark mentioned, with our IP, our shows, our live events, that you can extend your brand presence across so many of our different partners, whether it's Twitter, Snap, YouTube, Instagram. There's so much, and so your brand presence can live on beyond the moment that it's in the show, and you can do things that are so different and interesting with your brand, with the shows. One example I'll give on Peacock, I've talked about this before, but when The Office launched, we took two of our launch partners, and the creator of The Office created ads for both Unilever's Axe and State Farm to talk about like a home office. And it was done right in the vein of The Office. And those were used across the entire NBCU ecosystem to drive promotion to The Office, but also for our brands. They were for our marketers' brands, and they proved to be really great for the marketers. And then again, making buzz like we do with things like Live from the Red Carpet on social platforms, so that a marketer's brand, when we integrate them into the red carpet, you will see that they will get so much play and social buzz after the event. And you'll see that with going forward with all of our live events, we're doing more and more around the social space, with live look-ins, for example, on Twitter, of live performances. And so many, it seems like the sky is the limit when you integrate with our product of the unique things that we can do, and we can go on and on. We see so many come through because our team and marketers are getting more and more comfortable with putting brands as part of the content, because consumers, they love it when you do it right. The feedback from consumers is it's great. And as Mark mentioned, the KPIs through the entire purchase funnel become stronger for the marketer.
Last year, we saw a pause to advancements in things like attribution due to COVID. Are you expecting brands to be more willing to move forward with these advancements?
I do.
Absolutely.
We've absolutely seen an increase, to your point, Gina. There was a little bit of a pause of just no one knowing what to do and where to direct their attention, was more just keeping the lights on. But we've had, over the past really 6 months, a whole lot more conversations, including our TII product, which is for the auto category, where we can actually go back 5 years and actually have a real conversation with a marketer, not just about awareness, but actually what percentage of their sales actually came from NBCU. And having those conversations have accelerated in the past 6 months. And that's the conversation we want to have, because we all know at this point, the idea of delivering 18 to 49-year-olds is not a proxy for, was that a successful campaign. We need to get the idea of what impressions actually drove sales. And we need marketers to lean in with us so we can connect those dots.
Can you give an estimate into like how much business you expect to do with new forms of currency?
I think we're in the midst of having those discussions right now, Jeannie.
So one of the other
Janine,
things
it's hard to say, right? It's hard to say and give an exact number, and it is such an advanced capability that we're working with marketers to get their first party data. We have so much first party data, work together. It was a very, like you said, an unusual year last year to use as a benchmark. And so moving forward, I think it'll be something that grows as we build the capabilities. It becomes stronger. Marketers become comfortable sharing their data, and see that our entire ecosystem, from parks to Fandango to Peacock, with our Comcast first party data is really rich, and this is the place to do it.
And, speaking on all of that, like, I know a lot of this is about packaging and about, putting all of these pieces together for more of a comprehensive, buy. But when you look at like NBC broadcast on its own, there's a push for dramas in the fall, no comedies on the schedule in an effort to, attract more live viewers. I'm thinking about like, how are you positioning broadcast proper in the marketplace? And like, what value does the actual broadcast channel still hold for advertisers?
Well, Jeannie, you're asking the right question, which is why we developed one platform. The great news is if an advertiser wants to come in and they want to look at just broadcast, they can do that. But the idea is how do we actually expand that reach and have different conversations? But the conversation around broadcast in particular is, I think what broadcast television is an unbelievable environment to have multiple generations sit down and watch a show together. The Voice tonight will be watched by 10 million people who will all sit down, with kids being able to watch it and adults being able to watch it all together and enjoy the shows. But as we look at our schedule, it's interesting. If you look at what we've done on Wednesday nights on NBC, is we have all of the Chicago series. So it's almost like a binging version on broadcast television. You've seen us do it on Thursday night with Law and Order, adding in organized crime on that side as well. So I think you're going to see more of grouping of types of content as opposed to trying to go from comedy to dramedy or to drama. So I think you're going to start to see the programming shift on that. But in all honesty, we spend so little time looking at specifically broadcast versus everything else that we're doing. We look at it holistically and what a show does over 35 days instead of overnight.
Sure.
I just also want to add that Telemundo, who is also, our Spanish language broadcast network, what we see, and it holds true for NBC as well, is that the broadcast networks create a community for consumers, whether it's building the bridge from their local news into the national programming. And so many consumers still go to broadcast because it's their home base. It's creating that community. And so we even saw this when we built Peacock, where research showed us that when they went to streamers, they went into a black hole, which is why on Peacock we have so many live channels and where we added our live news and sports offerings. But it's still on broadcast, that home base, that community feeling that you get, that I think having a local element also adds. And we're finding broadcast to be so valuable. We've added broadcast local into our sales. We're doing so much with Unwired, particularly with the demand across news that we're seeing this year. It made sense for us to add in the Unwired local elements. So broadcast, with its reach, with its community impact, is really so viable. And I think you'll see that with the demand in the marketplace.
One of the key words from last year was flexibility, and I'm curious what flexibility looks like in 2021.
Well, flexibility for us has never really been a huge issue, in all honesty. It was a big discussion point last year as we talked about it, and I think there was more hype around the flexibility than the actuality of what it was. But for us, flexibility is you can go on and buy programmatically for today if you would like, or you can operate in the traditional upfront that we're having discussions around. The nice part about the marketplace is it is wide open and we can transact, and we do transact every single day around whatever form people want to transact on, whether that's direct, whether that is programmatic. We're open for business.
That is so true. And on top of that, Mark, Janine, is that as I mentioned earlier, the 70-30 consumption for digital linear, and with IAB terms having more flexibility as dollars shift, I think you'll see that marketers are getting the flexibility that they need.
Great. Well, thank you, Laura and Mark, for joining us. I appreciate it. Good to see you both.
Thank you so much for having us.
So for those of you watching at home, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them on our social channels. We will try to get to them during this conversation. Next up, we're going to turn our attention to the CW, which this year decided not to host a formal virtual presentation alongside the other broadcasters. I'm joined by Rob Tuck, Executive VP of National Sales at the CW, to discuss that decision and the network's move to a 7-day schedule. Hello, Rob. How are you?
Oh my God, that was talk about tech.
You think 2021 at this point you would have this down pat?
Now you, I can answer your first question before you even ask me the first question. Why did you not?
It is going to be my first question, Rob. You know me well. Rob, I think we're having trouble hearing you. One second, we have a little sound issue. We're going to be right back for 1 second. All right, I think I'm back with Rob here from the CW. Rob, can you hear me now? We cannot hear you. We'll get there. No sound. Sorry about that, everyone. Hang with us for a minute while we get Rob's sound up and running.
How about that?
I sound. There you are. I hear you, Rob. All right.
Wow, that's good.
So this answer better be really good now for keeping us waiting. So the CW decided not to host the virtual presentation. Can you talk about that decision?
This is the reason why. This is because of technical difficulties. No, you know what? I'm sorry that my camera's pointing a little upward, but we felt that, everybody has been through so many Teams meetings this year. We figured we'd give everybody a break and not do another meeting. We were the last in line. We would have been the last in line last week, and I think people are a little videoed out, and so we thought the best approach this year was really to go into via video into everybody's office or into everybody's house and have direct one-on-one meetings with each and every client group, and really give them a lay of the land of what the CW has been up to, how we've been doing, and really share with them how we did for their business. And we handed out report cards. We were very transparent about our performance, and this dates back the performance for us this year really dates back to last May when we told everybody, that we were going to launch in first quarter, and fourth quarter would be an alternate schedule. And with that alternate schedule, we estimated accordingly, and that allowed us to really get through fourth quarter with an alternate schedule that delivered on our estimates, had all our clients delivering, got into first quarter, and really are performing the same way. I mean, our clients' deals, each and every one of them have seen it, are in great shape through 6 months, and they're in good shape as we enter halfway through second quarter at this point. So it was really it was a time where we thought that one-on-ones with each group would be more productive than actually doing a big presentation, big virtual presentation.
So what are the focus of those conversations? What is the CW taking to the marketplace this year? What are the priorities and things that you're highlighting?
Well, I think the biggest thing was an announcement last week that we're adding Saturday night. And I can tell you, I've been at this network and prior to this, the WB for over 25 years. And being able to say that we're actually a 7-night-a-week network feels pretty good. And for us to have that extra real estate, not only on the linear platform, but on the digital platform, because it gives us more programming to put up on our sites, is a big thing, and TV is still hot. I know that it's in demand this year, and it's not like Saturday night. It's not a big night, but just having 2 more hours of supply on the linear platform is a good thing for the CW and is a good thing for the advertisers, in my opinion.
I'm Janine Poggi, and I'm here with Rob Tuck, Executive VP of National Sales at the CW. As a reminder, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them on our social channels, and we will try to get to them during the conversation. So besides expanding into Saturday, the extra inventory now you have to go to market with, how else are you thinking about, now this extra content for streaming? How else are you thinking about the streaming marketplace and the opportunities for advertisers to work with you guys in the space?
I think just as a reminder, I mean, we've been at the digital, on the digital platform for over a decade. We started Convergence. We did it out of necessity because of the fact we saw that our audience was going there. The younger audience were the first early adopters to go onto the digital platform and watch what they want, where they want, when they want. And so out of necessity, this network made that change over a decade ago. And I think, as we move, as we look forward even to today and into the future, we've already adapted there. And our advertisers have adapted and accepted that as well. And so we are a true multi-platform network. We've been selling the multi-platform offering for a long time now. And, it's good that everybody else is catching up, to where we are. And I think the more exciting part for us now is the fact that we are getting full stacks of our shows. Different deal. Obviously, we're moving our newer shows. The newer shows are going on to HBO Max versus Netflix, and that deal allows us to do full stacks. And the best part about that is it allows our consumer and our audience to be able to catch up when they want, wherever they want, on our apps. So that's been huge for us. That is a major change from the 5-episode rolling 5 that we've had for the longest time. And this year is really going to be a change as we go into 21-22, where the bulk of our shows are going to be full stack on CW and CW apps. So,
how are you thinking about the ad model in those environments?
We've toyed with a lot of different ideas. We have played around. We're still playing around with the load. We fully understand that, when you're streaming something, the consumer wants as little interference as possible in terms of, just staying with the episodes. And so we've been playing around with that. I look at, our advertisers and their businesses, and these guys are really savvy. Everybody in this space, they're able to tag their commercials. They find out a lot of information about our audience. Quite frankly, we've said it a lot of times to them that they probably know more about our audience and characteristics of our audience than we do. And so, we can tell just based on the sheer demand and the feedback that we're getting from the advertisers that it works for them, and it's been working for them. So we are definitely open to new models. We are open to new ideas, and we continue to look for them like everybody else does, quite honestly, in this business.
Yeah. So last year we saw a pause to, certain types of advancements in attribution and data targeting due to COVID. Are you expecting movement in that area? Do you think there'll be more of a willingness to move forward with some of these types of advancements?
Yeah, I do. I mean, listen, COVID put all of our businesses, disrupted everything that went on in the business a year ago, and this year, I'm getting the sense that things are back to a more normal type of environment, and so I think those type of advancements will show up again this year. I think the challenge for the CW, and not a challenge, just we have a very different business. We don't have the fringe day parts or the other day parts where a particular audience may be available, a particular consumer may be available versus what's in prime. And,
Right.
we know that the bigger networks, look to get out of a definer of prime time or a day part because that audience exists there. And that makes total sense. But for this network, I can proudly say we're 7 nights a week in prime time, and we've got our digital platform, and that's it. So we're a little bit challenged in that regard to come up with different type of selling models, but at the same time, we'll try anything with our advertisers if it makes sense to figure out a better mousetrap, quite honestly.
Yeah. So what is the value of, broadcast still for advertisers?
I think it's great. It's still, broadcast is sight, sound, and motion. It may not be the easiest thing to tune in at a certain time for a particular show. I know this network, we know it. We're not a solely live viewed network each and every night for each of the shows. We're more delayed, but at the same time, we know that audience is going to come and watch our shows because we're able to see that viewership within 7 days. So they make their own night, so to speak, their own scheduling of our network. But what we do know is they do watch it before that 7 days is up, so that they're ready for their own next new episode at their time when they want to watch it, wherever they want to watch it.
One of the things that I think most marketers and agencies are paying attention to right now is their DE&I efforts, especially as we go into the upfronts and they're thinking about their media buying strategy. What is your sales team bringing to the marketplace this year to help brands, better reach and more authentically connect with diverse audiences?
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to say, I mean, the tagline of this network has been "Dare to Defy." We're open to all. We've made this a priority for many years now. It's not only behind the camera; it's in front of the camera. And this year coming up is going to be no exception. We had the highest concentration of diverse viewers, on broadcast across our schedule, and knowing the shows that we're looking to add this year, I don't see any change in that. The 4400 is an example that went straight to series this year, and the executive produced and directed by women and people of color, and and the leads in the series are reflective of the U.S. at this point. All of our shows really are in that same vein. I mean, if you look at the casting of each and every one of our shows, you see a really diverse cast that's represented there. So, that's not going to change. It's something that we stand for. It's something, that Mark and the programming group are really, really proud of, and they make sure that they look at it for all of our shows as each show roll, together. So.
Are there plans to work differently with advertisers to connect them with those audiences in those shows, or are there other opportunities out there that you're thinking about and are, advertisers asking you for to, better reach these audiences?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we got a great branded entertainment group, open to different ideas. I mean, the best thing about this network, and it has been for the longest time, is the fact that there's very few layers. And so if an idea comes up that an advertiser wants to pursue, it does not take much for the branded group to either get to the studio and the show directly, and then up the line right to Mark to pitch ideas. And so we do have some things that we're actually working on this year, potentially for some of the newer shows. Advertisers are definitely looking for it. They've definitely expressed interest probably earlier than they have in the past, and hopefully everybody will hear about some of those soon.
Great. Well, Rob, I appreciate you joining us. I'm glad we got everything up and running so you could chat with us. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, I'm glad. I was glad I'm actually it came through. I had to do it on my iPad because for some reason my laptop.
I mean, we're a year in, and I think we're still experiencing the same issues. So probably, not much going to change here.
I don't think so. Thanks again,
Rob.
Jane.
Be well. So next up, we have Studio 30 contributing editor Brecky Fletcher, who's going to sit down with PBS and one of our sponsors, Methodify by Delvinia.
Hi, welcome. Let me introduce my esteemed panelists. First off, we have Eliza Jacobs, who is the Director of Consumer Insights and Analysis at PBS. She manages the primary research and consumer insights as part of PBS's business. And then we have Raj Manosha, who is the CEO of Methodify by Delvina, and he is here to talk about his research automation platform. So thank you both for coming. Looking forward to having this chat, and let's kick it off with Eliza talking a bit about what brought PBS to Methodify.
Thanks, Brecky. So Raj and I go way back to the first week of March 2020 at the last, I think, in-person event we all attended at the Quirks event in Brooklyn. And I saw a very quick demo of Methodify's platform. I really liked it. I saw it was quick. It had a lot of really cool, interesting automation built in. And I kept it on our radar as a tool that I thought we would want to experiment with at some point once I found a good use case. And Raj and his crew were very patient with me for the rest of 2020. And then we finally found a really good use case to test some creative assets in support of Ken Burns' next documentary, which premieres on PBS this fall, about Muhammad Ali.
Awesome. And before you went to Methodify, talk a little bit about how PBS did its consumer insights. Talk about your insights community at PBS.
Sure. Yeah, so we, up until recently, did have our own proprietary research, community insights community, and it was a great resource, right? We could tap into it at any time. We had really cultivated that community. That is no longer a resource that we have at PBS. So this has been a big paradigm shift for us for how we do research, and that we're now without that community. And I will say that community, the demographics, because of how people were recruited in, tended to sort of skew more like our PBS's traditional linear TV viewer, which is more female, more Caucasian, older. And so obviously that is not necessarily representative of all of the people that we reach, nor all the people that we really want to reach. And so now that I no longer have that community, in a way, I feel that I have a lot more flexibility than I have in the past to experiment with different platforms and research partners, depending on the project. And so, one of the things that I like about Methodify is that it is subscription free. So I can do one project with them, or I can do 25. And it offers some freedom that I think we haven't previously had. Another thing that's great about it is that there are sort of templated surveys built in for whether it's a concept test or an idea screener or some video response options. And so what's nice is that they're built in and they're templated, which saves me time as a researcher, but there is also flexibility in there in that I can add in custom attributes. I can figure out and work with them to see what test is going to be best for what I need to do, for whether it's testing PR creative, which we're going to talk about, or whether it's videos, or whether it's a title test, which I actually just recently did another study with Methodify, testing a few different titles for a new series that will premiere next year at some point.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about how you went about selecting the images to test for Ken Burns' Muhammad Ali.
Sure. So we just saw the one that actually was the chosen one, and will be this is the image you will see in any of the print promotional efforts in support of this film. This is also what will be a web banner or any sort of digital asset, right? This is the key image we're going to use. So we tested 4 images, and our creative services team in-house at PBS, they created these images, worked with our marketing people, also worked with Ken and his team to sort of find the images that, different ones to test. And the 4 that we tested were very different. They felt very different. I think in some ways they all could have worked, but we're trying to find the one that would work best across a variety of different targets or audience segments, the one that would appeal to both our core audience, but also younger audiences or more diverse, however you want to define that. And so it was interesting because, as I said, they could have all worked, but the one that was chosen sort of was just above, when we did the study looking at the results, was just a little bit ahead of a couple others, and they had very different feels. I think the other thing we wanted to convey is that this is not just a film about boxing, because there are people that feel very strongly about boxing, don't like it, and maybe, if it's just about boxing, or they think it's just about boxing, they might not watch. Or there are people that also feel very strongly about Muhammad Ali. So trying to, at least in an image, demonstrate how multifaceted, he was and how complex he was. And finally, the other thing is that I will say we have our own biases because we work every day at PBS, and we think we know what works, and then we know what we like. So, there was a lot of debate internally about those, and people felt very strongly about each of the images. But, when it came down to it, I think this is where it's really important to get the consumer's voice, because sometimes you think you know what's going to work, and then the consumer tells you, well, actually, this is what we think is going to work and what we like best and what will sort of make us want to watch. So, which in the end, that's what we're really trying to do, is get people to watch.
So that's where Raj comes in, and Methodify comes in. Raj, why don't you, so tell me, you received these 4 Ali images and you are tasked with finding the largest cross-section of audience that will expand and not put off existing PBS viewers. Walk us through that process.
Absolutely. I think the producers have an image as well of sort of the way the system works. We can pop that up if it's there. So this is a bit of the reporting, but essentially the way the system works is when you give us the concepts or things like that, we basically upload them to the system. Either we can do that or we can have our client do that. And basically you can start to pick the demographics you actually want to use. So if you wanted to have a cross section of just millennials, we could set that up. If you wanted to have 18 plus, we could set that up. And this is the actual setup screen. Basically, we want to get you in and out in sort of like 10 clicks or less. So set up your title, pick your audience, upload your stimulus. And Eliza sort of talked about the idea of templated methods. And basically, if you don't want to change anything, the method's there for you. So you can kind of do your 10 clicks and away you go. So you can set up your entire project in a couple of minutes. And then all of a sudden that starts to feel, and you start to get people back within the hour. So we even have some clients who basically run this with their marketing group in a whiteboard session. Within the hour, they're getting data back from the customer segment that they actually want to talk to. So it's a pretty powerful tool. And again, if you don't want to get off the shelf, we absolutely understand that every brand is a bit unique. They might have some sort of change they want to make. So we give the ability to be flexible and customized as well. So adding different question types, attributes, a very custom audience, you name it, we can get it for you. The point is really to take away this idea of this illusion that it's a difficult task to automate. There's a lot of things in the market research process that allows you to become much quicker, especially with the technologies that are available now. But what's more important is, and Eliza sort of touched on this, the biases that end up happening. So this gives you the ability to manage things like exposure, get quick data back. And throughout your process within your journey of sort of idea to market, it allows you to sort of get that data always on. So you can have that customer with you on your journey as you go. And that's a really big important place because it's never been harder to sort of get customers, never been easier to lose them. So if you want to kind of understand your customer base and sort of how they're interacting with your brand, this becomes a much more powerful tool for a marketer or a market research and insights professional to kind of use on an ongoing basis.
Fascinating. How do you take that information and communicate it? We talked about biases and people's opinions, and everybody thinks they're right. How do you take that data and basically, is it just, here's the data, move on, or is there a conversation after you get the results of the research? It's
a great question. So from a pretty experienced researcher, Eliza could kind of get that data back and pick exactly what you wanted to know. For some marketers who use the platform, we actually have a plus service where we actually get a researcher on contract to kind of pretty up a presentation deck or some of the outcomes, so they can have that conversation. So part of this tool as well is how much do you actually want it to do for you. So if you want to do the entire research process and get sort of to that golden nugget end state of a recommendation, we can provide that service. But a lot of the insights professionals actually just like to get the data back so they can kind of cut the data how they want, look at different pieces, and then make that decision on their own.
And Eliza, on your end, how does that work with you communicating to your team over at PBS?
Sure. I mean, with some projects, it's like, well, here's the data, and I walks through a few things in an email, and that's fine. But with something like this, Ken Burns, and obviously is very high profile, so we'll walk through it together. And I also think in this case, because it was our first foray with Methodify, I wanted to explain sort of what the data are showing, what the charts are showing, because it is a little bit different. I definitely took advantage of the automated reporting because I was like, I love not having to do a PowerPoint from scratch. I can't imagine that anyone enjoys that at this point. So it was really nice to be able to sort of just, you can create any type of report, filter it, and then just export it, and you've got it. If you want to sort of do some aesthetic cleanup, like to the colors or something, you can do that. But what's also interesting in that graph was showing, or Dem had it in there, was that sort of that average benchmark, the 44 across the middle there. And what's also kind of nice is that's an average across a bunch of industries, but that was sort of at least gave some perspective, I think, to help our people understand, like, what does it mean? I mean, obviously I have historical data comparing to previous sort of Ken Burns testing we've done, but that's a nice feature as well. And then another thing is that and I hope I can say this, I'm going to say it, there's a proprietary insight score that is calculated, at least for the test that I did, the concept test, and it's a sort of weighted score based on a handful of metrics. And I will say that people responded really well to that, and that sort of, I think, helped people wrap their head around the one image being sort of a little bit preferred a little bit more than the others, because that was a weighted metric that combined a couple of attributes and questions, and so people could understand, like, okay, it's not just in isolation this image was, by these questions. It's okay, here are a handful of things, and you weight it, and then that shows you the power of that image or piece of creative or whatever it is.
That's goodness. Okay, so Raj, tell me about how you find this pool of potential audience for PBS. Where are you looking? Where are you finding these folks?
Great question. So we do a lot of different things when it comes to audience. So we have our proprietary sort of groupings that we have. We actually partner also with about 100 online sample providers. So whether it's global, local, US, Canada, anywhere you kind of want to get data, we have a partnership where we have something proprietary, but we also actually work with client lists. So if you want to kind of go specifically with your own list, we can actually do that as well. So this idea is either you want to get a large swath of people who are in your demos, then we would go to something general, like an online panel. If you want to go more specific to your list, we can do that as well. But based on the type of research you want to do is what we would recommend for the ask. So in this case, Eliza wanted to kind of really understand sort of how this was going to fit. So to her point earlier, it wouldn't make sense to go to the list because you're also trying to get new viewers and trying to understand sort of the differences in those types of things. Whereas if it was something very specific about a thing you wanted to do or a product that you have that was specific to your customer base, and that's it, then maybe that's where the client list works. So we basically help to recommend some of those things, but also give you the option to kind of choose on your own as well.
That's amazing. I appreciate both of you taking the time to talk to us about this new way of finding and expanding audiences, and I appreciate your insights. So I just want to thank again Raj Manosha from Methodify by Delvina and Eliza Jacobs of PBS. And now we're going to kick it back to Janine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brecky. So for those of you watching at home, as we get into our next session, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them on our social channels. We will try to get to them during this conversation. Amid all of those upfront presentations last week, probably the biggest headline of the week was certainly the news of the deal between AT&T and Discovery. And coming off of that monumental deal, next we are joined by JP Colasso, Head of Advertising Sales at WarnerMedia. Hey, JP.
Hey, Janine, great to see you. Thanks for having me on today.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
You bet.
So a lot to get to, but of course I have to start things off because obviously the thing top of mind in everyone's mind is the AT&T and Discovery deal. What can you say about how the announcement will impact this year's upfront negotiations with everything happening so close to talks getting started?
Yeah, I can't say too much, of course, Janine, but what I can say is the one constant in this industry is change. And I'm proud of a lot of things related to my team, but one of the things I'm most proud of is our ability to separate signal from noise. And our signal is focusing on our customers and delivering for them day in and day out. As for this year's upfront, nothing changes. We will continue to partner with our agencies and clients, and we will deliver on all the commitments we promised this year.
And then, of course, the second biggest thing everyone was waiting to hear was any details around the ad-supported tier of HBO Max. Can you walk us through what the opportunities are with it getting started next month and what you guys are looking to do with advertisers now that you will be able to air commercials and sponsorships and all those things?
Sure. Janine, I can't tell you how excited we are about the launch of HBO Max with ads. We have a tremendous service that had over 44 million subscribers announced last quarter in the SVOD version. And adding the AVOD version gives basically choice to consumers. And I think when you give choice, you can pay a higher price and not have ads, or a lower price with ads. I think good things happen for consumers and that grows your scale. Also, a lot of the SVOD viewing, probably over 50%, is done on non-ad supported platforms. And so having an ad supported platform for us is going to have the lowest ad load in the industry, offers a real serene environment for advertisers with elegant, non-intrusive ads. And at launch, we're offering a few things. One is the ability to have pause ads, which we patented and is actually core to what we do through our DirecTV platform. We have brand blocks where a brand can take over an entire block of advertising and have a clean, clutter-free experience for consumers. And third, we're also having branded discovery, which is when someone's searching for one of the shows that they love, you can surround a brand with that as well. But that is just the beginning. We are in the business of innovation, and we have an extensive roadmap of new ad formats that we're incredibly excited to launch in the coming months and years.
And how many minutes of commercial time will there be?
There'll be a maximum of 4 minutes per hour.
And that does not include some of the, HBO proper content that will, if I'm understanding it correctly, will remain not ad supported.
That's right. So that content will be ad free at launch.
Will the Friends reunion have ads in it?
The Friends reunion will have ads, as well as obviously we have the entire library of Friends episodes. So there will be a lot of ads on Friends content. It's amazing how people are binging on Friends, and even younger people who didn't grow up with it like we did.
Yeah, I watch it almost every night. It is like my go-to-bed show, so I'm not surprised by that. But we are a Friends house.
You're a Friends groupie. That's
yes, I certainly am. So, you talk about the ability to put brands in like search and discovery. And I find that part interesting because I'm wondering what the opportunities actually are around search and discovery. It's becoming a bigger part of the conversation as we see so many people move to streaming platforms and kind of like fiddle around with what to watch. Are there growing opportunities for advertisers to really own that space and be a part of that space in new and different ways?
Yeah, I think so. So let's think about it sort of broadly, right? First of all, you have consumers watching on platforms, and you want to be available on every single platform. Second, you want to be able to aggregate audience and also precisionally target audience. If you can, those two things have scale and precision, you're in a very good place. And then the third bucket, which what you're talking about, is content. And we are strong believers in the fact that content will resonate with consumers and ads, especially when you have 100 years of the best IP that we have, from Wonder Woman to Harry Potter, from Batman to something else. We have so much content that you can actually tie into. We also have sports. And so having this plethora of content means exactly what you said, which is discovery. So we believe that in sort of the search process, you can actually identify brands that can tie into sort of what type of content people are looking for, and then align the brand to the content that surfaces that provides greater affinity for the brand, drives higher engagement metrics, which will drive a better brand experience. And over time, you can search for the content, and then you can actually target the ads into that content. So you get a multiplier effect where I'm identified in the search, and then I am actually in stream in the content. And that will be a huge punch. You talk about Muhammad Ali, you'll float like a butterfly and sting like a bee.
How much of ad budgets do you expect to shift from linear into streaming this year?
Well, we think that sort of connected TVs will grow around 50%, but that's still small in relation to obviously the linear budget. And so we look at it two ways. I think one is that linear provides the scale, and we are so excited about the networks that we have: the TBS, the TNT, the CNN, three of the strongest networks in all of cable and in sort of all of media. And on top of that, you can actually watch across platforms, and the ability to join those two together provides convergence, and that's something we're working on in an exciting way. So we're a little indifferent about where you place your dollars, because we want to provide the punching power of both of those things.
One of the things that WarnerMedia announced last week is that some of the HBO Max originals will actually air on TNT and TBS with limited commercials, which you're calling, I guess, front row. How are you looking to work with brands with this opportunity?
Sure. So front row is a really innovative concept that the TNET's team brought to us, and we're really excited about it because
TNETs. I just have to interrupt. I did not know they were called TNETs.
Yeah,
it was like a lot of buzz
TBS,
among
TNT,
like us media reporters of like since when it was called TNET. So.
Sorry, that's a little bit of an internal phrase, but but it is a great way to describe these powerful brands that we have. And what we're doing essentially is beginning this summer, we'll broadcast Max originals, things like Love Life, Close Enough, 12 Dates of Christmas. Maybe Janine, you watched those when you were going to bed as well as Friends.
I did. Love Life is up there with that as well.
So great shows like that. And the first season of Flight Attendant, which reached 1.6 million viewers during its premiere sneak peek in November 2020 on TBS. That's also going to be available to watch on TBS in 2022 ahead of the second season. And also some TNT content such as Claws and Snowpiercer will be offered to consumers with limited commercial interruption. And so the idea is that we can partner with a brand and we can work together to design a unique experience that helps to tell the story of the show, but also integrates the brand story in a unique and compelling way. So we're not married to a specific ad load. We're married to a great quality user experience for consumers, and also working very closely with brands to weave them into the storytelling.
You've called IP the new prime time. And actually a little earlier when I was speaking with NBCU, they were also talking about the importance of IP. Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by that and like what this means for brands?
Yeah, I think IP is the new prime time is really about IP anytime. You don't necessarily need to buy a spot at 8 p.m. on Thursday during your favorite show, Friends. You can buy a spot or an integration into content and meeting the fan where they want to consume it, when, where, and how they want to consume it. So if it's on mobile, if it's on desktop, if it's on a connected TV, we can meet you there. But what's interesting about us is that this is the first time that WarnerMedia has broken down all the barriers, and we're working very closely with our storytellers at studio and television. And we're working together to unlock all of this 100 years of IP that I mentioned before. And so we think that's really important because having the best content and the best stories in the world and tying that to the brand story will lift all the metrics: brand recall, message recall, favorability, and purchase intent. It's a multiplier effect, which is the fact that we have the scale, we have the precision, and I'm sure we'll talk about addressability. And on top of that, we have the IP that resonates higher than anything else in the world. And all of those components work together to drive impact for marketers. And that's what we're trying to do. And I just, I can't tell you how important the IP that we have is to this equation.
You read my mind. Addressability is my next question. We're seeing a lot of experimentation this year and sort of opening up some national inventory to be addressable enabled, to be able to target at a household level. Can you talk about those efforts and how much more we'll see sort of get turned on to be addressable enabled, how much more inventory, in 2021?
Sure. Addressability is so important to the future of media. And it's not just linear addressability, it's also cross-platform addressability. And we talked about convergence earlier. And for us, we're the pioneers in this space, and we're honored to do that. So for 8 years with DirecTV, our team has been sort of focused on addressability, and we've been doing it. And we've been doing it at scale with thousands of campaigns with marketers such as pharmaceuticals and auto, and TuneIn, et cetera. And so we're really skilled and experienced at delivering the right ad to the right person at the right time and driving those back-end attribution metrics. And we're excited to bring that to national. And we're already testing with 40 million homes, and we believe by the end of this year, we'll have 52 million national addressable homes. And I think it will be sort of in beta for 2021, but when Nielsen starts measuring in the fall, we'll work with them as well, and we'll grow. And we think in 2022 is going to be the year of addressability.
What is the biggest hurdle in getting scale? I feel like we've been talking about addressable TV now for a decade or more. It's taken a while. Why, what is the next hurdle, I guess, that needs to be crossed in order to reach the scale?
Sure. I think the next hurdle is essentially just signing deals and with all of our different distributors who we value very highly. So all of the MVPDs and virtual MVPDs across the landscape, and then actually testing the plumbing, making sure all the plumbing works, and then the back end attribution, and then getting demand and getting advertisers to lean in and test and learn with us. And I think we're there now. I agree it's taken a while, but we started early, so we had a lot of experience, but now it's accelerating. It's a snowball going downhill. Everyone's talking about it, and we like to be the tip of the spear in this regard.
And aside from addressability, we've also spent a long time talking about attribution and all these data targeting products that have been out there for multiple years. And last year, it seems like we hit a pause with some of those. What do you think are brands' willingness this year to think about new currency and new types of measurement, to strike deals against?
Yeah, I think the sort of the upfront deals will, for the most part, be done on a CPM basis, but a lot of the advertisers, especially the agencies, are bringing in their own data products, both first party and third party. And I think we want to be agile and flexible in the ability to tie all of that data into our walled garden, which is our first party data. And we have some of the best first party data in a privacy centric way in the world. You look at our DirecTV data, our partner with AT&T, our WarnerMedia data, HBO Max. You put that all together, and we can actually help with the process and have really strong matching with them. So I see data playing a bigger and bigger role, and our partners are leaning on us to be at the forefront of that.
Last year, the big keyword was flexibility. What does flexibility look like in 2021?
Yeah, I think in 2021, flexibility sort of morphs into trust. Last year, we demonstrated incredible flexibility with our partners, and for the most part, I think they've been very thankful for that. Moving forward, I think we've demonstrated and created a lot of credibility with our partners, and moving forward, it's about trust. Things are going to go one way or the other way. We're all evolving into this new post-pandemic world, and we want to have the trust with our partners that we will come up with solutions that will work for them, and then if there is a turn in the road, that we'll be there to sort of help them through it and to be flexible in how we do everything.
If flexibility was the keyword last year, what would you say might be the word of 2021?
I think 2021, the word is IP. There's two words, IP and addressable. Those are the two words. Great. Well, I guess IP is two words, but
we'll count it as one. I'll take it as one. JP, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Janine. Great to see you. Look forward to the next chat.
Be well.
Bye.
So we are going to take a break. Be sure to join us back here at 1 p.m. when we will sit down with brands and agency leaders to discuss their outlook on the TV marketplace and how they are evaluating media companies. And if you are watching on adage.com, please refresh the page to tune back in. Thanks so much.